Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Amirul Iman bin Zainal Ardi, and today I'm going to be presenting our presentation based on our research done for the comparison in English proficiency between ex-CFS and direct intake students in Kuliah of Education IIUM. Malaysia has been a unique site of cultural and linguistic diversity in terms of its education. Post-British colonization, Malay medium national schools and non-Malay national schools were designed with Bahasa Malaysia as the medium of education, with the exception of language-based subjects. However, the medium of education in higher education institutions is in English instead of Malay, with exceptions being made for certain courses. In context with IIUM, their students are picked from two distinct groups: students from direct intake and students from Center of Foundation Studies or CFS. Proficiency in the English language is important, especially at a higher education level such as this, where it is an expected trait. The term itself in this context refers to the ability of a person to use and speak English well as a result of training or practice. This sentiment plays into the main question of this presentation. Considering the increased amount of time spent by ex-CFS students compared to direct intake students in the system, does this translate to greater proficiency of the English language? If so, how apparent is the difference and to what degree does this difference extend to? The results of the following research may help in creating an environment where students are able to be on equal footing with each other in terms of competent English proficiency. The objectives of this research is to identify the differences in English proficiency between direct intake students and ex-CFS students and the steps that need to be taken to establish a level playing field, and to identify difficulties that direct intake students and ex-CFS students face in trying to become more proficient in English. And the following questions that rise from these objectives are: if there is a difference in English proficiency between the two groups, what steps should be taken to shorten the gap and establish a level playing field for both groups, and what are the difficulties that direct and ex-CFS students face in trying to become more proficient in English?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Syahier bin Hamidon and my metric number is 2015071. I will be continuing the presentation with the methodology of the research. First of all, the targeted location of the research is International Islamic University of Malaysia, IIUM, Gombak, Selangor. To be precise, the targeted respondents are the undergraduate students from Kuliah of Education. Next, we have decided to conduct the research online through online survey. Therefore, the platform that we choose is Google Form, as it is user-friendly and easy to manage all the data. Other than that, we have also surfed the internet to get additional information regarding our topic to produce a well-written project paper. After receiving the responses from the respondent, we gather all the data. Quantitative analysis has been done to make it look simple yet full of information. This also means that all the data were transferred into tables and charts. The next part is findings and discussion. The first section is the demography of respondent, which is age of respondent. Overall, the survey managed to get 36 responses. Most of the respondents are 20 years old, with the percentage of 47.2%, which also means 17 respondents. The second highest age is 19 years old, with 11 respondents, which is equal to 30.6%. Meanwhile, there are 5 respondents that are 21 years of age. There are 2 respondents, meanwhile, that are 22 years of age and only 1 respondent that is 23 years old. The next part is program entered by respondent. As an information, there are 4 undergraduate programs that are offered under the Kuliah of Education. The first one is teaching English as secondary language. The second one is teaching Arabic as secondary language. The third one is guidance and counseling, and the last one is Islamic education. So, the majority of the respondents are majoring in TESOL with a percentage of 67.6%. Respondents that are majoring in ISAT, meanwhile, come out at second place with a percentage of 20.6%. So, it means that only 8.8% of the respondents that are studying in guide and the remaining percentage went to the TESOL student. That's all from my part. Thank you very much.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Alif Danial. My metric number is 2010725, and I will be presenting the slides of group of respondent and the respondents entered CELPET for English placement test. Okay, the first pie chart is group of respondents. Okay, 61.1% of the respondents are direct intake students. Meanwhile, 38.9% of the respondents are ex-CFS students. And the respondent entered CELPET for APT is 61.1 of them didn't enter CELPET for APT, and 38.9 of the respondent entered the CELPET for sitting the EP. Okay, we move on to the second slide, to the next slide, level of English mastery. Okay, the majority of the respondents rated their English mastery level at a scale of 6 with a percentage of 44.4%. And only 8.8% of the respondents chose the scale of 7 as their English mastery level, and the percentage of the respondents that answered the scale 5, 4 and 3 are 60.7%, 27.8% and 2.8% respectively. There are no respondents that rated their English mastery level at a scale of level 1 and 2. Okay, let's move on to the summary of overall English proficiency between ex-CFS and the direct intake students. Okay, the ratio between these numbers of students compared to the total number of students per group differs from one another. The first one is 1 ratio to 0.409 for direct intake students and 1 ratio 0.5 for the ex-CFS students. Okay, and the range of values in direct intake students is much lower than the ex-CFS students, 3 until 6 and 4 to 7 respectively. The last one, the average English mastery level of both groups, which with the ex-CFS students obtaining a higher average with a 5.71 in comparison to the direct intake students with average of 5. And the last slide for me is steps to overcome difficulties in mastering English. The majority of the respondents, 28 respondents, think that reading books and novels can help them to overcome their difficulties in English language. 19 respondents think that scaffolding method, which is learning from peers, can help them to overcome the difficulties. The third one, which is respondents that choose joining webinar in English competition, are almost the same, which had 13 respondents and 10 respondents respectively. The second last one, 2 respondents think that having a counseling session can totally help them to overcome their difficulties in coping with English language. And the last one respondent thinks that having a group study can help them to overcome the difficulties regarding English language, and the remainings are watching movies and shows by practicing them every day and learning English through social media. Okay, that's all for me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ahmad, Hakim and Usman with metric number 2010939, and I will continue to explain about the difficulties that respondents frequently face in mastering English language. From the bar graph that we could see here, the highest one, which is the blue, half of the respondents chose that directly translating English to their own native language is the difficulty that they frequently face. The second one is the orange, is 16 respondents agree that talking in English language is also one of the difficulties that they face frequently. The amount of respondents who chose understanding lectures in English and no difficulties at all are the same, which add 5 respondents both respectively. There are 2 respondents who answer the same, which is low level of confidence. And the last one, there are also respondents who inform that they are not able to understand some hard words in English, raising confusion in grammar, lack of English conversation, and not able to be confident in public speaking and not understanding higher level of English. Moving on to the next slide. Now at the discussion, from the findings, it can be summed up that from the research, there is a degree differences between direct intake and ex-CFS students in regards with their English proficiency, favoring ex-CFS students. The most notable takeaway from the research table is the average English mastery level of both groups, with ex-CFS students obtaining a higher average with 5.7 in comparison to direct intake student average of 5. Nonetheless, respondents have answered ways of overcoming difficulties in mastering English so that a level playing field between both groups can be established. Lastly, researchers managed to identify the difficulties that are faced by the respondent in mastering their English language. Moving on to the next slide. Finally, we have arrived to the last part of our presentation today, which is the conclusion. Based on the project paper that has been done, researchers have managed to achieve both objectives. It can be concluded that there are some differences between direct intake and ex-CFS students in their English proficiency. However, through the policy set by IIUM, all students are able to learn and improve their English proficiency through the CELPAT. This has proven the commitment of IIUM in fostering and producing balanced students with the highest level of English proficiency that suits its name as an international university unlike any others. Researchers recommend the policymakers of each university to restructure their required subjects so that students can have enough time to learn English and develop their proficiency to their finest. That is all from me, and it concludes our presentation for this project paper. Thank you for listening, and may you have a nice day. Assalamualaikum.